Welcome to the People Forward Leadership Podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Carol Parker Walsh. As an expert in transformational leadership and human development, and the creator of People Forward Leadership, I'm here to help you create thriving, engaged teams and unstoppable leaders. In each episode, we'll explore the strategies and insights that will elevate your leadership impact and drive lasting results. Get ready for a transformative journey filled with actionable steps. Let's go. Hey there. Welcome to the People Forward Leadership Podcast. I want to thank you so much for joining me here today. I want to start with something I've been noticing everywhere, in the news, in my coaching sessions, in consultations and conversations with CEOs, and even my fellow business owners. And I'm sure you've noticed it too, that there's this underlying current of anxiety running through workplaces right now. Everyone's feeling it. The economic volatility, government uncertainty, shifting priorities. It kind of feels like the ground keeps moving from underneath our feet. And in my work with organizations, I've watched leaders try to ignore the impact of all of this, what the impact is having on their employees, the stress and fear that comes up in the questions about the security of their positions and the overall dip in engagement. And instead of responding to it, mainly because they don't have any definitive answers to give, they try to push through it with sheer determination or ignore it by working harder, moving faster, and thinking that if they just power through, they'll get to the other side. But honestly, that approach may actually be making things worse. It's unintentionally increasing burnout, eroding trust, and ironically, hurting the very performance that they're trying to protect. So today, we're going to talk about it. We're going to talk about how to create calm in your workplace, particularly when it feels unpredictable and chaotic. And I'm going to give you 4 research-backed strategies that you can start using this week to steady your team and reduce anxiety, even when the path forward seems completely unclear. Now, what I love about these strategies is how they align with the 3 pillars of the People Forward Leadership Framework. They're grounded in leader awareness. They'll strengthen your team's ecosystem, and they'll help solidify your organizational culture by embracing continuous learning as a way of operating. You'll see how all 3 pillars work together to create stability in unstable times. The truth is, you can't control chaos, but you can absolutely control how your team responds to it. So research from Deloitte's 2025 Global Human Capital Trends Report revealed that there's a widening gap between human needs and business outcomes, with workplace tensions at an all-time high. And we're not imagining the stress. It's documented, it's real, and it's impacting every workplace in some way. Whether you're leading a startup, managing a team in a large organization, or running your own business, this affects you. The question isn't whether uncertainty exists, because the answer is it does. The question is, how do we lead through it effectively? So I want you to grab a pen if you can. And if you're listening while on the move, give yourself permission to revisit these strategies later. So the first strategy is over-communicate, even when you don't have all the answers. Here's what's happening in uncertainty. When people don't hear from leadership, they assume the worst. Silence doesn't create calm, it creates anxiety. Our brains are wired to fill the gaps, and when there's an information vacuum, we don't fill it with the most optimistic scenarios. We actually fill it with worst case thinking. There's fascinating research from Harvard Business Review that found during times of organizational change, employees who received frequent communication, even when the news was uncertain, reported 30% higher trust in leadership compared to those left in the dark. Now, this is a key point to remember. Even uncertain communication is better than silence. Now, here's where leader awareness, the first pillar of the framework, comes in. This strategy requires from you as the leader that there's this humility in acknowledging that you don't know, that you have no idea what's going to happen and you're unclear about the future. And that clarity to communicate what you don't know actually builds trust in the people that you're leading. It's about resisting the urge to either hide until you do have perfect information or to overpromise something or certainty when it really doesn't exist. So here's what this looks like in practice. Your job as a leader isn't to have all the answers. Hopefully that's been established already as a leader, that you don't need to know everything. I know that might feel uncomfortable because we're trained to think that we should know everything before we communicate anything. But in times of real uncertainty, that's impossible and actually counterproductive. So instead, try this simple formula. Just share these three things. Here's what we know, here's what we're tracking, and here's what we can do right now. That's it. Brief, regular updates using this three-part framework. Even if the update is, hey, we don't know yet, but here's what we're watching, and here's what hasn't changed. Give it a try this week. Schedule a brief team update, even if you don't have major news to share, and try this three-part formula. Keep it short, keep it clear, and be sure to repeat the message across different channels. Say it in your team meeting, put it in an email, mention it in your one-on-ones. People need to hear messages multiple times, especially when they're anxious, in order to really hear what it is that you're saying. And don't fall into the trap of sending long, confusing emails that create more anxiety than they resolve. When we're nervous, we tend to talk a lot, and that can translate into our writing as well. I see this all the time, leaders trying to cover every possible scenario, every caveat, every what if. But that actually just increases anxiety. So keep it crisp, keep it clear, and communicate frequently rather than waiting to have the perfect comprehensive message. When you communicate this way, you're not just sharing information, but you're building trust, which is the foundation for an adaptive culture and empowered ecosystem. Trust and resiliency don't come from having all the answers. It comes from being honest about what you know and what you don't. The second strategy might feel counterintuitive, but I want you to stay with me here. The second strategy is to stop waiting for things to get back to normal. This is all about embracing that third pillar of creating an adaptive culture of continuous learning, which is fundamental. It should be a fundamental operating principle. It's not just a nice to have kind of thing. Another mistake I see leaders make is framing uncertainty as temporary, saying things like, once things settle down, or when we get back to normal, or after this passes. That can be problematic. The truth is, treating chaos as a brief storm to weather, it only keeps everyone in panic mode. It keeps your team in survival and scarcity thinking rather than adaptive problem solving. Researchers now have a term for what we're experiencing, and they call it permacrisis, which is a prolonged period of instability and insecurity. And organizational psychologists have found that waiting for stability before making changes actually increases stress and decreases performance. Think about it a bit. If you're constantly telling yourself and your team, just hold on a little longer, what message does that really send? It really says, don't adapt, don't innovate, don't change anything, just white knuckle it through until things get back to how they were. But what if they don't go back? What if this level of uncertainty is actually the new operating environment? Instead of saying, hold on, you should just name it out loud. Say to your team, uncertainty is sticking around for a while, so we're going to adapt how we work. That simple reframe shifts people from survival mode into problem-solving mode. I mean, COVID is a great example of this, even though it was something that we probably knew we were going to get through and pass. But in truth, those who treated the pandemic as their new normal and then they adapted and pivoted, they not only survived, but they thrived during that season and are doing even better today. But those who tried to white knuckle it through, not seeing the reality of what they were in and trying just to say, okay, what if this is the new normal? What do we do differently? They are either still trying to recover or they lost the fight altogether. So this is continuous learning in action, recognizing that adaptation isn't a one-time event. It's an ongoing practice, one that we need to embrace and learn how to engage. The name of the game of leadership today is adaptability, not just resilience of sticking it through and getting through, but how to be resilient, to be adaptive and then resilient in the adaptation. Instead of thinking outside the box, which implies the box is still a valid place to start creating a new one, a better one designed for the realities you're actually facing, not the ones you wish existed. Think of what does 2.0 look like? Instead of the box that we have, throw it out and think, what does it mean to create a new one? So here's your practical action step for this week. Look at one process or system in your team or organization that was designed during more stable times. Maybe it's your project planning cycles. Maybe it's your approval process or how you make decisions. Ask yourself and your team, if we were designing this from scratch today in the environment and for the environment in which we're actually in, what will we do differently? Then make one concrete change. Maybe it's shorter project cycles or faster feedback loops or streamlined approvals, something tangible that people can point to and say, oh, we're adapting. And then notice what this does. It invites your team into the problem-solving process. That's building an empowered ecosystem where people aren't just being told what to do, but they're actively shaping how work gets done. And when people have a hand in designing the solutions, they're far more invested in making them work. And their focus shifts. So try to resist empty pep talks like, we've got this, or we are resilient, without pairing it with an actual change, because that rings hollow. Every we've got this message needs to be paired with one real, visible change people can experience. Otherwise, you're just adding noise. Now, inviting your team into the problem-solving process or creating adaptive solutions leads right into the third strategy, which is about redirecting energy. You want to focus on what you can actually control. That's the third strategy. And this strategy beautifully demonstrates how leader awareness and empowered ecosystems work together. According to the American Psychological Association, people experiencing chronic workplace stress spend up to 40% of their mental energy ruminating on factors outside their control. Think about that. 40% of your mental energy spent on things that you literally cannot change. That's exhausting. And it's one of the main drivers of that feeling of helplessness or victimization that can take over teams during uncertain times. Anxiety makes us obsess over what we can't change, but redirecting your attention to areas within your team's influence helps to rebuild momentum and restores a sense of agency. And agency, that feeling of I can do something about this, is critical for maintaining performance under pressure. Now, as a leader, this starts with your own awareness. You have to manage your own tendency to fixate on the uncontrollable before you can help your team do the same. That's that self-management piece of leader awareness that we talked about earlier. Notice when you're spinning on things you can't change, and then practice redirecting yourself first. Now, here's a coaching exercise I often give to my clients. Make two lists. In column 1, write what's outside of our control. And in column 2, write what's in our control. What's always interesting is that the second list is usually much longer than people initially think it will ever be. Customer service quality, that's in your control. Response times, that's in your control. Internal communication, that's in your control. How teams collaborate, that's in your control. The quality of your work, that is completely in your control. These are the levers you can actually pull to create better outcomes even when external circumstances remain volatile. So for this strategy, your practical action step is to do this exercise with your team this week. Create those two lists together. Then, and this is crucial, go all in on the second list. Review it every week in your team meetings. What from your controllables list did you focus on this week? What progress did you make? And when you find people feeling stressed, panicked, or feeling overwhelmed, ask if their brain is causing them to focus on the wrong list. It's imperative to pay attention to your thoughts and redirect them to something positive on that controllable list as soon as you can. Definitely do this exercise yourself on a daily basis. But when you do this exercise collaboratively, you're building psychological safety. You're saying it's okay to acknowledge we can't control something. Let's name it, let's accept it, And then let's focus our energy on where it can actually make a difference. That creates shared norms around how your team navigates uncertainty together. And maybe this is one of the values in your organization that you can lean deeper into and demonstrate that behavior for yourself and your team throughout the organization. This practice keeps teams grounded in what matters and prevents the paralysis that can come from fixating on the uncontrollable. Now, unless you really plan to do something with those lists, don't do them. Don't even waste your time, because lists that just sit there looking decorative don't work. If you can, and you do the list, assign specific names to each controllable. Set deadlines, track progress, make it real so people can feel actual momentum week over week. Now, the fourth strategy brings all the pillars together because it requires leader awareness to let go of long-term certainty. It strengthens your ecosystem through shared accomplishments, and it embodies continuous learning through short feedback cycles. So the fourth strategy is go for quick wins, not long-term plans. Studies show that progress, even small progress, is the single most powerful driver of positive emotions and engagement at work. It's more powerful than recognition, more powerful than compensation, more powerful than almost anything else. Progress fuels us. Big goals can feel impossible in these times, and particularly when everything keeps shifting and changing. When you can't see 6 months ahead with any clarity, setting 6-month goals can really feel pointless or even demoralizing. So instead, consider working in sprints. Consider short cycles, fast feedback loops, and a lot of iteration. Break your work into something like a 2-week chunk. Pick one concrete measurable goal per sprint, and then celebrate profusely when it's done, publicly and enthusiastically, even if the priorities shift for the next sprint. And be sure to use something simple, a simple tracker that everyone can see. One that identifies what the goal is, who the owner is, what the deadline is, and then what was done. This creates visible progress and helps combat that exhausting feeling that nothing ever actually seems to get completed. We all know that feeling of working hard and being really busy, but feeling like we're really running in place. Quick wins, however, really change that narrative. They provide proof that forward movement is possible even in the most chaotic of conditions and times. And here's the science behind why this works. Each completion triggers a dopamine response in your brain that increases motivation and helps teams believe that progress is real and that their efforts matter. Celebrating small wins also isn't a frivolous activity. It's a strategic brain chemistry, and it builds cohesion in your team ecosystem because you're creating shared experiences of success, even small ones, and that reminds people that they're capable and effective. So your practical action step for this week is to identify one 2-week sprint goal for your team. Make it concrete and measurable. Not something like improve communication, because that's too vague. Try something like respond to all client emails within 4 hours, or complete the first draft of the new onboarding guide, or implement the new project tracking system. Think one goal, 2 weeks, track it visibly, then celebrate the completion. What you're building here is a rhythm of learning and adapting, trying something, completing something, seeing what worked, and then adjusting for the next sprint. That's continuous learning in its most practical form. And don't make the mistake of creating more meetings in the name of agility. Please don't do that. I see this mistake happen a lot. Teams get so excited about the sprints, and then they use old ways of thinking in an innovative process, right? So they get excited about the sprint, and then they add daily stand-ups and weekly reviews and sprint planning sessions and retrospectives, and then suddenly there's no time to do the actual work because they've been spending so much time meeting about understanding how to do the meeting. So keep check-ins light. 10-minute stand-ups, not hour-long planning sessions. Protect your team's time to actually execute rather than just talking endlessly about how to execute. So I want to recap the 4 strategies and how they connect to the People Forward Leadership Framework. First, Over communicate even without all the answers. That is leader awareness in action, bringing humility and clarity to how you show up. The second is stop waiting for normal to return. That's embracing an adaptive culture of continuous learning as your operating system, not just waiting for the old way to come back. The third strategy is focus on what you can control. That's leader awareness guiding your action while building the foundation of trust in your empowered ecosystem. And then finally, rack up quick wins. That's all three pillars working together. Your awareness to let go of false certainty, your ecosystem celebrating together, and continuous adaptive learning through short cycles and fast feedback. Now, before you get overwhelmed thinking you need to implement all strategies perfectly starting tomorrow, I want to be clear. Just pick one. Pick the strategy that resonates most with where your team is at right now or what they're struggling with right now. Maybe you know communication has been sparse, so start there. Maybe you've been stuck in waiting for normal mode, so name that and shift it. Maybe your team has been spinning on things that they can't control. Do the to-list exercise. Or maybe morale is low because nothing feels complete. Then launch a 2-week sprint. Just start somewhere. The antidote to chaos isn't having all the answers. It's leading with steadiness, with intention, with adaptability, and with the belief and the courage to admit that we have no idea what's going to happen, but we have the ability to move forward anyway. It's about creating calm in the center of the storm. And that's exactly what People Forward Leadership is designed to help you do. Lead with awareness of self, build empowered teams who can weather uncertainty together, and create a culture that learns and adapts continuously instead of waiting for stability that may never come. Your team is looking for you, not for guarantees. They know you can't provide those, but what you can provide is steadiness. For a sense that someone's at the helm who sees the reality clearly and is navigating it thoroughly and thoughtfully. That's what these 4 strategies give you. Not perfection, but direction. Not certainty, but agency. So here's your real challenge for the week. Pick one strategy, just one. Implement one action step, and then notice what shifts. You can't control the chaos, but you can absolutely control how your team responds to it. And that response starts with you. Well, that's it for this episode. I hope this conversation gave you some practical tools to create more calm and confidence in your workforce, even when the external environment remains unpredictable. And if this episode resonated with you, share your insights on social media and tag me. I'd love to hear which strategy you're implementing first and how it connects to your own leadership development. And if you found value in today's conversation, please take a moment and give us a 5-star rating and positive review of the show. It helps other leaders find us, and that means we can impact even more people together. Until next time, continue to lead with intention, adapt with purpose, and remember, calm is something you create, not something you wait for. Keep leading people forward, and I'll see you soon. Thanks for tuning in to the People Forward Leadership Podcast. If you're ready to implement the insights and strategies shared in today's episode, schedule a call with our team to explore how we can help you drive talent retention, boost engagement, and develop extraordinary people forward leaders in your organization. Plus, be sure to visit our website to access additional resources that will support your growth goals. Until next time, keep leading your people with purpose and confidence. And remember, when your people thrive, organizational success is inevitable.